real skin in all its glory. I've got dark spots, hormonal acne scars, redness, hyperpigmentation, and I think that's my superpower when it comes to Seint. When you watch one of my videos, you are able to see on a real human face what this makeup looks like and how you can tweak it in a multitude of different ways to get more or less coverage. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Sami George, and I teach Seint makeup to those of you out there that have imperfect skin. My clients are typically 35 to 75 years old because they see in my face what they themselves are dealing with. And I know this makeup inside and out because I used it and it didn't work for me. So I had to try a bunch of different things in order to get the coverage that I wanted and still have my makeup look like skin. So in today's video, that's what we're gonna talk about. This is your Seint all-in-one compact makeup. It's super cool from the aspect of like, this is your entire makeup bag. And what you see on social media is often the small palette, one brush, no layering, kind of slap it on and go. And that's what we want, right? But the reality is, those videos are not always realistic. They don't show the entire process. Maybe that person has really nice skin and it just doesn't translate for you. You can't do the same thing that they're doing. That was my experience. Until I learned how to take care of the discoloration on my skin first, that's when I really fell in love with this makeup, and I've been wearing it for 4+ years because in my opinion, this makeup can do anything from just on a 2-minute day where you want to even out your skin to like full glam, full coverage. This palette does it all. So for those of you that are new to Seint or have been using Seint and are struggling to get the coverage that you're looking for, this video is for you. When it comes to getting coverage that's gonna last all day, but still be light-handed, there are a couple of things that you need to know. First, when it comes to Seint's cream makeup, you need to make sure that you are wearing no products underneath it that have silicones in it. I'm gonna put a blurb in the comments below with what kind of endings of the word you wanna look for in any of your AM products to make sure they don't have silicones, because unfortunately, it's more than just the word silicone. But silicones cause slippage. So when we have areas on our face that we want to, really target and have some specific color correction, if your makeup is slipping and sliding, all of that is for nothing. So we wanna make sure that we have no silicones. We also wanna make sure that anything we're putting on our face has an adequate amount of time to absorb. Me personally, I do very minimal products on my face. I do a vitamin C in the morning, I do a sunscreen, and I let those set in at least 20 minutes before I go into my makeup routine so that I don't have anything wet or still on the surface layer of the skin that hasn't absorbed that's just gonna cause my makeup to move around and me not like my finish. The second thing is gonna be application. There are so many different ways to apply this makeup, and if you have been on Instagram or Facebook, I'm sure you've seen them all. From dots to stripes to one layer to using dark contours on the face to color correct. There are so many different ways that you can go about this, and while none are right and none are wrong, I do find that there are some that are more preferable when it is mature skin things like dark spots, rosacea, hyperpigmentation, hormonal acne that you're dealing with when you want to still wear the least amount of makeup possible. So today I'm gonna show you that application method. And number 3 is color. Color is king when it comes to makeup. That's why understanding the color science of makeup and skin is very important. So the cool thing about this makeup process itself is that you get a custom color match from your artist. And if they have done the job of learning color and learning skin and learning, the problems that people deal with their skin, they're able to provide you a customized match that's really gonna serve you. And honestly, that's where I have prided myself because I've been on the other side of that where I've had to apply lots and lots and lots of makeup to try to get coverage, and still my coverage didn't last. So today we're gonna talk about the key when it comes to getting good coverage is color correction, and color correction with a darker, warmer tone versus something that's gonna gray out your skin, or simply just changing your foundation shade to try and apply more and still not like your coverage. And when you get a custom color match from me, one of the things that I'm gonna do is send you an individualized face map where I'm going to mark on your skin, based on the concerns that you share with me, where to apply your color corrector shade, which is the key to all of this, in order to get the finish and the look that you desire. So those are the 3 things that I really focus on with my clients and what you're gonna wanna take away from this video. So let's jump in and do it. For the purposes of really being able to see the difference, I'm gonna work off of this side of my face and I'm gonna leave this side of my face undone, because sometimes I feel like as you watch the process, if you do both sides, like you can't see how magically different it is when you apply this makeup in a certain method. So typically with Seint, you're matched to a main highlight shade, a contour shade, a brightening shade, and then a lip and cheek bronzer, any of the other things you want. These palettes are completely customizable. When I color match you, if you have skin concerns like any of the ones that we've discussed today, I am likely going to add in a color corrector shade, and that is going to be the first shade that you apply. I'm also going to make sure that you have the right tools. While it would be ideal to match everybody to one brush and expect everybody to get the same outcome, it's just very unrealistic. As a matter of fact, most people match to the 3D brush because it has this bunny end that you can squeeze in here, and it has this end where you can buff all over. But the reality is, this is one of the most challenging brushes for a new person because of the density of it, because it picks up so much product. And typically it leads to more problems than it does solutions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna match you to the least amount of tools possible to give you the outcome that you're looking for. So what I do with this method is I start with color correction and the blush and bronzer brush. I consider this brush to be the perfect density to get light to medium coverage and to actually be able to buff the product into your skin. So let's get started with one tap of our color corrector. I'm talking like a very minimal amount on the top of the bristles. And what I'm gonna start to do is buff it into the discoloration that you see on the skin first. All buffing is this circular motion here. And what this does is it allows it to really work into kind of the creases and crevices that we have in the skin. Because one of the cool things about this makeup is it's never gonna penetrate your actual first layer of skin. Molecularly, it's too big. So it sits on the skin, but because it's cream, it kind of melts and almost starts to really like work with the warmth of your skin. But I wanna make sure, because I have textured skin, that I'm buffing this small circular motion into the larger areas of discoloration that you see on the face first. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start to tone down the redness. We always want to target the deepest and darkest points of our skin first with a color corrector. Because if I'm able to reduce the redness, the sunspot, the dark under eyes that you see, then when I go in with my traditional Seint application, I can wear the smallest amount of makeup possible versus going in with this color first and really having to layer it on in order to cover those dark spots that you see. The key to this makeup for dark spots, mature skin, any of those sorts of color concerns is matching the darkest points with a darker shade than your skin, and typically it will contain warmth. So people get nervous because they're like, oh my gosh, that is a dark tone, that is a warm orange looking tone. Like, Sami, you have to be crazy. But the purpose of all of this is to use color science to our advantage. The discoloration that you see on your face looks red, but most likely what you're looking at is some form of a purple or blue undertone in these areas that I am buffing this in, which is across here, on my chin, and on these dark points of the nose, and even on my eyelid. Blue and purple gets color corrected with something opposite the color wheel, which is going to be your yellow and orange. So we are applying a very thin, light layer of this color corrector in the areas of discoloration to tone them down, and we're using color science. Like, the makeup is smart. That's the coolest thing. So once you have the right color, everything changes with how much makeup you have to wear and how long it lasts throughout the day. Once I have overall toned down the redness in the larger areas that you see with the small end of the blush and bronzer brush, the ideal brush to use if you are able to pick up an extra tool is the blend brush. The density of the blend brush is perfect for now going in and pressing more on to the areas where I have additional concern, like this dark spot right here, this pocket of my under eye, this outside corner, around the broken capillary area of the nose. I have this scar, and all I'm doing is adding a little bit more. I'm staying light-handed and I'm adding as I go, but you'll see already how much different my skin looks just with a little bit of color correction. Overall, it's too warm to match my face, so I can't wear this alone, but it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a little bit warmer and darker in order to do the magic that I want it to do, which is color correct blue and purple and even areas of melasma on the face. Can you see the difference already? It's such a big difference with such a light hand of product. The last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the spot brush. If you deal with acne or hormonal acne scarring, this is the brush that's going to allow you to spot treat exactly where you have the excess color that you want to get rid of. What I have actually found is that my ideal application on a quick day with Seint is color correct, main highlight shade, bronzer, and a blush. That's my go-to 4 palette, where in traditional Seint land or all over social media, you're gonna see main highlight, brightening highlight, contour, and lip and cheek. Equally great options, but not always if you're somebody that has a lot of discoloration in the skin. So that right there is gonna be step 1, which is color correction. And look at the huge difference that just that little bit of product makes. Now from there, we're just cruising to the finish line. Here's the next step. Now we go in with our main foundation shade. This is the shade that most closely matches your skin tone. And I'm gonna go back to the small end of the blush and bronzer brush. And now I'm going to press or stipple, and I'm gonna do it one little tap at a time. But I do not want to buff this or sweep this because color correction is specific. We put it exactly where we want it. This color we put over top of where we color corrected, because if you remember, that color corrector is warm and dark. When I match you to a main foundation shade, it will be based on what your color corrector shade is and what you tell me you want to match. So some people like to match their neck, some people like to match their chest, some people like their face to be lighter or darker. So I put together a combination of colors that are going to get you both the finish, the color correction, and the skin tone match that you're looking for. But it is really important to remember, 1, only press on after you've put your color corrector on, and 2, your main highlight shade does go on top of your color corrector and anywhere else that you want coverage. Sometimes people get confused and they don't put their main highlight shade on top of their color corrector, and then your face is just gonna look too warm and unbalanced. This is a on top of light layering system. What I have found is that using light layers with Seint is more effective than using heavy layers of one color. So like I said, oftentimes people will do a main foundation shade, a brightener, a contour, and then a lip and cheek. And to get coverage, they'll just put a lot more of that same product on with a dense brush like the 3D brush or the buff brush, and then they wonder why their coverage breaks up throughout the day. And the reason is that more makeup doesn't equal more coverage. The right colors, getting rid of the darkest points, followed by a light layer of makeup over top, tends to give you the most light-handed, natural-looking finish with coverage that lasts all day. Okay, look at that. Look at that, look at that. From this to this, and it doesn't look cakey, it's not tacky or sticky. Even though we layered, it was minimal layering with a very specific purpose. So now let's just go in and finish our makeup. The traditional brush that works the easiest with contouring is the detail brush. And what you're gonna see is 2 things. 1, I am pressing from the back of the ear, I'm following my jawline, and I'm stopping at the outside corner of my eye, and I'm flicking up. 2, I have redness in this cheek area. So I did color correct and put my main foundation shade underneath this. A lot of times with Seint, you'll see it shown as one layer, not needing to put anything under the contour. And here's the thing, our contour gives coverage. But when you have redness in your contour area, it's still gonna be prone to show through. So that's why I color correct in this area first. I put my main highlight shade to make sure it matches my skin tone. Then I go in with my contour. And I'm particular about my contour shade. This contour shade is called Astoria. And Astoria has very minimal warmth to it. If you are prone to redness in areas that you contour, the last thing that you want is a red-based contour, because then it's just gonna pull your redness through. So when I say color is king with makeup, this is kind of what I'm referring to, is that you wanna make sure you have the ideal shades and you learn how to apply them, as opposed to, picking a contour color that you think might look pretty, or that the artist on the internet that you see is wearing because it looks good on her. You wanna make sure that your colors are chosen for your skin needs. So this, we're just starting at the back of the ear, coming down under the jawline, and then pulling this down the neckline. And that's just a very light hand of contour, and you can actually see pretty good. I'm looking forward at a window right now, and you'll see how this contour starts to create more of a cheekbone than what I have here. Like this side of my face looks a little bit more drugged down. Obviously I have the discoloration, but this starts to pull that up in a very natural looking way. So even with just a minimal amount of the right contour shade, it's gonna stay ashy, which is what we want, because contour is supposed to emulate shadow, not exacerbate warmth. I'm also gonna teach you a little trick. If you have a larger forehead like I do, instead of just contouring right here around the perimeter, start closer to the peak of the brow. The purpose of contour is to create shape and dimension for the face. Contour actually recedes the face. It makes it look smaller. It draws it back. So we pull back the forehead, we make it look smaller. We pull up the cheekbones, we make them look more sculpted. That's the point of contour. And if you have a mature face, avoid this area right here. We are already starting to sink in this area. And if darkness recedes, putting your contour right here is just gonna cause this recession to be even more recessed, more sunken in, where instead you can put a little bit of brightener there and actually pop it out and give that area more of a full look as opposed to a sunken in look. Flipping over the detail brush, or going back to the small end of the blend brush, I'm now gonna use a little bit of my brightening shade, and I'm gonna show you how to do this if you have a lot of texture under your eye. So first of all, we wanna brighten the center of the face. So we're gonna go kind of in between the brows, but I avoid this highly textured area and I go right up here. Now, I'm gonna use what's left on the brush to bring a little bit of product down the nose. This area is not a highly textured area for me, so I have a little bit here, and I'll kind of fill in the gap there, but I'm gonna avoid going right there into this textured area, because anything that is textured, light just exacerbates that texture, which is also why, as a side note, when you color correct under your eye and remove that darkness with a darker shade, it doesn't emphasize your texture. Then you can go in and strategically brighten, like right here, down the side of the nose and underneath this pocket right here. We have taken away the majority of that darkness. So now all we're doing is looking to add a little bit of light to the face to brighten the center. Remember, highlight and contour. Contour recedes, brightness comes forward. That way when someone's looking at us, they're actually drawn to the center of the face where the eyes are. So now we've brightened down. Oh, forgot, a little bit here and a little bit here. So we're kind of creating a line down the center, just fluffing it up a little bit here. We've gone side of the nose, underneath that pocket, and outside here. Now, I'm gonna use what's left on the brush to make sure that there's no gaps in my brightener, but I don't wanna come in really heavy-handed on these areas where I have the most texture. And I always stay underneath that bag as to not accentuate that texture. The other tool that you absolutely want if you have texture on the skin or if you are ever layering is the Perfector sponge. Perfector sponge was created to remove excess, not to apply liquid. So you do want to have the correct type of beauty blender for what we're trying to do, which is just make sure if I have a heavy hand anywhere that this will remove the excess. It also makes sure that I have no harsh lines, and really I'm just pressing this into the skin. And it's going to help me get a skin-like finish, especially if I'm heavy-handed or if any of my colors weren't blended well together. All of the products up to this point, color corrector, main foundation shade, contour, and brightener are all coverage products with Seint. We wanna come in with our perfector sponge, remove that excess before we go into bronzer, lip and cheek, or any illuminator, because these are sheer products that don't give coverage. And if you use this afterwards, you'll just pull that makeup off. Before I go into those couple of finishing options that we have, I'm gonna take a look and see, is there anywhere else that I want more coverage? Now that I've used my perfector and I've gone through all the steps, this is when I can assess, is there anything else that I feel like may be popping through? Like, let's take this dark spot. It's barely noticeable, but if I wanted to get a little bit more coverage, I could put the smallest amount of my color corrector on my finger. The warmth of my finger and the warmth of the skin is gonna help melt that in really nicely. After I put my color corrector, I'm gonna tap the teeniest amount of my main highlight shade on, just for a little bit of additional coverage. Because this makeup doesn't dry down, I can add to at any point I want, like even 6 hours later. I could come back and add to my makeup to go out for the night without having to start over. That's the cool thing about cream makeup, is it doesn't dry down, which means you're gonna be able to work with it. It's gonna move with your fine lines and wrinkles in your skin. It's not gonna crack like a foundation would as it dries down. So you also have the opportunity to do touch-ups whenever you want, because you're adding to a mobile product. You're not trying to add something on to a product that has already dried down and now feels a little bit like that crunchy, like cracky feeling that you get on your face sometimes with a liquid foundation. For me personally, my favorite next step is to do bronzer. And while I'm matching really good, my face and my neck match good, that's my preference, is to have a pretty seamless finish here. If at this point your face is darker than your neck, you can take a little bit of your bronzer and bring a little bit down the neck just to darken that a little bit if you need that in order to get good continuity. But typically I'm just going to go to the high points of the face, which is where you would naturally get a sunburn. So right here on my forehead, and I like to add the warmth in because I feel like my skin looks a little bit more rejuvenated when I have warmth to it. As we age, we lose a lot of color in our skin. So while people are really nervous to use a bronzer, they're often really nervous to use a bronzer because they have a lot of redness in their face. And if you don't take care of the redness, I understand why adding something that has warmth is a little bit stressful. But since we've already color corrected, we've already toned down those areas of discoloration, we can add a sheer wash of bronzer without having to be worried that it's going to exacerbate that redness. Instead, it's just gonna add a really nice flush. Now from here, I'm going into a blush shade. This is Frenchy, and if you're somebody that's dealing with a lot of redness and you don't like redness in your blush, Frenchy, Nude, Madrid, those are all beautiful colors to choose from. So when I'm applying blush, I'm going 2 fingers outside of the nose. This is important for anybody that has started to get these marionette lines. You don't want to drag your face down by getting your blush in there. Go 2 fingers outside the nose, smile, and hit the outside apple of the cheek and just press this on and then bring it up your contour line. Now we're continuing to add a little bit of life to the face, but we're also lifting by going up that contour line. I'm gonna take Sunshine State, which is this very barely pink undertoned golden finish to it. And I'm gonna use this instead of an illuminator right on top of Frenchy. And I'm just going to add a little bit of additional glow to get even more of kind of a youthful, glowy, dewing, hydrated finish to the skin, but you could do the same thing with any of our cream illuminators. Now, one thing that I forgot to do is after I color corrected my eye, I wanted to add a little bit of my main foundation shade just to really bring that back to matching. It reminded me of that because this is the part of the process where I set my face. So after I put cream on the eyes, I do grab our powder brush and our Vanilla Dust setting powder. And because I have wrinkly eyelids, I am going to set the cream. Remember, creams don't set. I'll continue to be mobile, especially in areas where you have creasing. So you wanna go ahead and set that. The other areas that I typically set are anywhere that I want to decrease the amount of glow. So you could do your T-zone if you tend to get shiny there. But for me, the area under my eye, I'm just pressing a little bit on, and I'm not so much worried about decreasing glow here as I am about making sure that I'm setting an area where I'm prone to creasing because I have a lot of fine lines and wrinkles there. But I'm just doing one press in for my entire under eye. Less is more when it comes to powder, and one press around this marionette line. I also like to go right here where my pores are the largest. Anything that reflects, anything that is lighter and brighter will emphasize those areas where we have texture. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce the glow in an area where I have large pores. Now my face and my eyes are set, so if I was gonna do eyeshadow, I'd be ready for a powder eyeshadow application and we would be done. I'm gonna finish this off with a little bit of our lip oil. It's really good, really hydrating. Gives just a very nice finish. But I don't like anything mattifying on the lips. And if it is mattifying, like a color stay or something like that, I always put something over it that's going to make them a little bit more hydrated, not emphasizing fine lines and wrinkles. You know the drill. If you know, you know when it comes to lips. But that is it. This makeup routine right here with a color corrector first has been a complete game changer for me. It allows me to get really good coverage on the parts of my skin that are bothersome to me while still looking very light and very natural and very much like my skin, but better. I hope you guys found today's video helpful. As always, I appreciate you being here. If you found value, I would love it if you would like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next week.